as usual, we will start with a brief summary of what we did in this sprint and then move on to the interesting part with demos and discussions. So we have worked on implementing support for a C++ feature known as scoped enums. So it's implemented by providing new properties, scoped and type for enumerations, and with the corresponding support in the model compiler to generate scoped enums. We also did improvements in the model debugger. For example, there is now a new checkbox that allows you to skip being prompted for restoring session or instance diagrams when you launch a new model debug session. And we also improved the format of our trace files to make them easier to move from one computer to another. And then we did a usability improvement in the property view that makes it easier to see the fully qualified name of a type that you have referenced, for example, a type of an attribute. Then we have reintroduced the Corb IDL transform. This was a feature we had in our HCL RTist 10.2, but due to a refactoring we did when introducing the TCJS format, we had to remove it from 10.3, but now it's back. It's a separate installation module that you can select when you install HCL RTist. So if you don't use Corb IDL, you can just skip checking that checkbox. And also we rewrote the documentation completely for this feature since it was a bit obsolete previously. Then we started to work on an interesting area that is about graphic visualization of TC prerequisites. And this was also a feature we had in 10.2 for the old TCs that allowed you to visualize them in component diagrams. And that implementation had several issues when it came to performance, and it didn't scale well for big graphs. So now we are redoing this completely from scratch using a different graph layout framework. And in this sprint, you will see a preview of what we have done so far. We have not included this in the release, but still we would like to have your feedback on what you think about this, because we think that if this turns out well, we will use this for also other visualizations in the future. Then we worked on compare merge improvements, and we in particular worked on improving the change descriptions when ports are changed. So now we always show the port name, even if the port itself is not defined in the merged file. Then we have one rather big improvement that we only included in our HCL 11, and that is the upgrade of eGit from version 5.0, which we used before, to 5.4, which is the latest version that is recommended to be used with Eclipse 2019-06. And also at the same time, we improved it so that we no longer have to use a custom version of JGit. So now you don't have to install that through HCL RTist, but can use the standard JGit from Eclipse. We also did a couple of model compiler improvements, for example, support for unit subdirectories and precompiled headers. And there is also now a possibility to build TCs that have cyclic library dependencies. This was something that ROSE Realtime supported, but that HCL RTist did not support. But now it's possible to enable this feature. There were some fixes in the ROSE Art Importer, and also we did quite a lot of testing, especially in the area of different C++ language levels. So we have tested to compile or to build our test suites with the C++ 11, 14, and 17. And it worked well, but it was nice to do that testing to make sure nothing unexpected would come up. And then we worked on documentation. So as I told you in last sprint demo, the Developer Works wiki is about to be sunset now in just 3 weeks. So we have replaced all the dependencies to this website from the tool and also from the documentation. And now we have instead moved all content into the Eclipse help. So it's present inside the tool. However, some features that are not specific to a certain release, we have put on a website. So we publish this information also on a website. And also we did some other improvements there that came from suggestions from last sprint demo, such as having links to Eclipse and CDT versions. We also include the release notes there that we had on DeveloperWorks that now are also present in this documentation. And yeah, wrote some new documentation also in some areas. And then we also spent work on moving forward with RCRT 11 that will come in April. And we did a performance testing comparing with 10.3, and it looks good. It was on average 8% faster, but we are still investigating some test cases that were slightly slower to see the reason for that. So experimental features are the same as in last release. We have BERT that is experimental, since we have that issue that it doesn't work with latest Eclipse. We'll see if we can fix that. And we have also the clean command for external library thesis that that still is experimental. So these are the releases. We will make another release of RCRT 11 that is still experimental. So we hope that this will be the last experimental version, and in 1 month approximately there will be the final GA version. And then we have, of course, a new version of 10.3 to be installed on Photon. And then all other older versions are still the same. We didn't update them in this sprint. And I should also mention that Design 1 has a new version that contains improved support for authentication. That is still experimental, but much improved since the last sprint. So are there any questions before we start with the demos?